Hello everyone, I'm Sahil from Code Help. Welcome back to another video. Please subscribe to my channel if you have not subscribed already. So, in the previous video, we saw whenever we assign a value to a variable, TypeScript assigns a type to that variable automatically by inference. But there can be a use case when you are just declaring a variable but not initializing it with any value. Or let's say you don't have a value at that point of time for that variable, then how TypeScript will assign a type in that case. This can lead that variable being vulnerable and assign value of any type later in the program, and thus leaving the fundamental principle of strict type checking aside. So to solve this problem, we have something in TypeScript called as explicit typing, which means we can mention the type of the variable by ourselves explicitly. Now, how can we do that? Imagine I want to declare a variable let code which would be of type string, but exact value is not yet available in the program. Then I can do that by colon and type as string. Now this code variable will make sure that whenever we assign a value to this, it would allow values of type string only and not any other data type. In a similar fashion, you can do that for number like let age colon number, and also for boolean like let is boolean colon boolean. Now let's say if I want to give any of the above variable a value, let's say I give is boolean a value which is equals to a number is boolean equals 20, then it won't let me do that and will give me an error as I have already explicitly defined the type of is boolean to be of type boolean. So we are not allowed to save a number in it, but rather I can save a boolean in is boolean equals true and it would work fine. Similarly, let's pause the video and try out for age and message whether it allows you to save anything other than number and string respectively. Let me do that quickly. Age equals to true, it won't allow. Let me change it to number. Age equals to 23 and it works fine. Similarly, code equals to 32, which is giving an error as we have declared to be of type string. Then it must be of string type and not number. Let's change it to a string. Code help, and we are all good now. So this was all about how can we do explicit typing in primitive data types. Now let's move on to arrays. How can we define types explicitly in an array? Consider I have an array let myAr and I want it to be an array of string. Then I could do that similar to primitive type by colon string. But the catch here is I want it to be an array of strings rather than a string. Then I'll have to add an extra open close square brackets after the type, which means that it's an array of string type and not just string type. Also, in future, it will allow only to store string values and not any other data type. Like if I do myAr equals to open close square bracket and inside it 10 comma 20, then it would give me an error as these are numbers and not strings. But then if I do myAr equals to a string code and another string help, then that would work fine. Also, just a side note, when you're declaring an array, it's always wise to initialize it with an empty array so that you can use array operations like push and pop, like myAr.push and any string, let's say hello, as well as message equal to myAr.pop so that you could use these functions directly. Lastly, let's move on to objects. How can we define variable of type object explicitly in TypeScript? So for that, the first way is we can simply declare an object by, let's create one. Let object1 clone object. And then we can initialize it as an object by object1 equals to open close curly braces. Inside it, I'll give the property name, let's say Java, and another property fees, let's say 5000. Also, I can do something like object1 equals to an empty array, and this would also work fine, as an array is also a type of object. But in some cases, we want our object to have a specific set of key values only, and not any other values should be allowed. So to avoid this, there is another way to declare an object to have a more specific scope for the object created. That would be done as, let me create another object, let object2 colon an empty object, and then in this empty object we can add the properties like name colon, which would be of type, let's say string, and then we have fees, which would be of type number. So important thing to note here is that we are not initializing object here, we are just declaring the template of the object, that in future the object could hold only name and fees properties. Name and fees properties will have string and number types of values only. So now when we initialize it object2 equals to an object, it will give me an error as it does not have the properties mentioned at the time of declaration. So let me just add the properties name, C++, fees 3000, and then it would work fine. Now if I try to add another property, it will give me an error. Like let's say I add status with a value active, then it would show the error as we have not defined the property status while we declared the object. So that's how we give types explicitly in TypeScript and make sure that our code takes advantage of the strict type checking feature. That's all in this video. Hope this video helped you. If it did, please like it, leave a comment, and do share it with your friends. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you and see you in the next lecture.